Hi there. Welcome to the National Improving Writing Programme. Today we're going to be looking at tools for writing, and specifically we will be exploring ways to engage your learners with conjunctions. So here are the benchmarks and the E's and O's for conjunctions at both first and second level. And we're going to start with a really straightforward activity called because, but, so. So if you give your learners a sentence stem, then you're going to ask them to create 3 complex sentences using each conjunction in turn. Make sure that you know your learners understand the meaning of each of the conjunctions. So you could explain it in this way. Because explains why something is true. But indicates a change of direction, like a U-turn. And so tells us what happens as a result of something else. In other words, it's a cause and effect. So you could give it a go by saying the teacher was happy because, and continue with the same sentence stem, just changing your conjunction to change the end of that complex sentence. Here's another example of using the because, but, so. There are a range of different sentence starters here. You could perhaps roll a dice to choose whether it's because, but, or so as an odd and an even number. Or you could make a dice on the board that has because, but, and so. Or you could use a spinner. There are many, many ways to use this. But it's so important that your learners get to orally rehearse the whole sentence with their partner from the capital letter all the way to the conjunction and then to the end of the sentence. This was a connectives display in a second level class. The pupils were finding it really hard to understand that not all conjunctions did the same job. Some of them add information, like and, furthermore, in addition to, and also, whereas some are used for contrasting information or viewpoints, such as yet, even though, and but. This visual really helped the teacher to point out the track the pupils needed to be on for a particular kind of writing or for the types of sentences that were required. This is a really nice example of a bit of non-fiction work using conjunctions. This is called overwriting, and James Clements is the author of the book called Teaching English by the book and shares this really simple scaffold for modelling different language structures, in this case using conjunctions. The idea is to take an excerpt from a text as a scaffold, use the conjunctions as a model to adapt the texts for different contexts. For example, in this one, you take out the red text and change it to suit content relevant to your own class. You can use some interactive modelling where children are contributing ideas, making suggested edits, and keep the conjunctions there as a scaffold. Finally then, ask the children to orally rehearse their ideas together. Here's an example of something local to our context. So taking out only the red words and leaving the conjunctions in there, we can write a small paragraph about Musselburgh, or Prestonpans, or Cockenzie, or Dunbar, wherever you are, to change it to your context. But remember, making sure the children are orally rehearsing as much as possible. Here's a much simpler example of overwriting, this time from a fiction text. So it's taking a section from this book, The Dream Snatcher, with just one conjunction in it, and then changing the context around it so it said something slightly different. And here's a final idea for using conjunctions, again in a non-fiction piece of writing. As you can see there, there's a picture prompt from a sign from an island called Svalbard in the Arctic Circle, and it warns that polar bears can be found all over the island. And with a partner, you're going to ask the children to take it in turns to choose a different conjunction from a word bank, which you already have pre-made to finish the sentence. A really nice example for using here is an online resource called WordWall, where you can find lots of different conjunction spinners to help you be able to piece this together. Again, it's really important to make sure the children are saying the whole sentence, right from the capital letter through to the conjunction and to the final part of the sentence then. And this could lead on to a much larger piece of writing about writing a set of guidelines for people who've just arrived on Svalbard to warn them all about the bears. Thanks for joining us today for this National Writing Improvement Programme Tools for Writing on Conjunctions session. If you do have anything